Hello, and welcome back to my IELTS podcast. In today's lecture, we're going to finish up this Academic IELTS Writing Task 1 Lexical Resource series. So, we're going to talk about a practice activity so that you can apply what you already learned from this lecture series. All right, let's get started. So, this is our practice activity number 1. What you have to do is fill in the blanks. So, you complete each sentence with the correct word from the word bank below. There are 6 statements, and each statement need a correct word from the word bank. There are 6 words in the word bank, such as searched, significant, twice, peaked, accounted for, initially. Again, your job is to use the correct word in each statement. Number 1, the population dramatically from 2 million to 8 million between 1990 and 2020. So, what do you think the right word is? Okay, so the correct answer is surged. So the population surged dramatically from 2 million to 8 million between 1990 and 2020. Number 2, there was a decline in newspaper sales after 2010. And the correct answer is significant. There was a significant decline in newspaper sale after 2010. 3. Country A consumed as much energy as country B. And our correct answer is twice. Country A consumed twice as much energy as country B. Number 4. The figure at approximately 65% before declining. So what do you think the correct word is? Of course, the correct word is peak. So the figure peaked at approximately 65% before declining. 5. Housing cost the largest proportion of monthly expenditures. So the correct answer is, of course, accounted for. So housing cost accounted for the largest proportion of monthly expenditure. And last but not least, number 6, we have question mark, then the raw materials are collected and transported to the factory. And the correct answer is, of course, initially, the raw materials are collected and transported to the factory. All right, we'll check the answer key together later, but let's move on. All right, so this is our practice activity number 2. It is sentence improvement. And what you're gonna do is rewrite each sentence using a band 7 and band 8 vocabulary from what you've learned from our previous lecture. Replace weak, informal language with precise and academic alternative. Now, number 1, that is a band 5, band 6 statement. So it said the number went up from 2010 to 2015. So what you have to do is come up with the band 7 and 8 vocabulary or lexical resource. So we say the figure rose steadily from 2010 to 2015. That is the possible answer for Band 7 or Band 8 vocabulary. Alright, number 2. This is also from Band 5 to Band 6 statement. It said, more people used the internet in 2020 than 2010. So, what is the possible answers to get a Band 7 or Band 8 sentence? Well, we can say the internet usage was significantly higher in 2020 compared to 2010. Right, let's move on to statement number 3. The pie chart shows that food was the biggest. That is basically the basic vocabulary for Band 5 and 6. Now your turn. So we can say this. We can say food expenditures constituted the largest proportion of household spending, right? That is the most possible answers for a Band 7 or Band 8 candidate. Right, the last statement. 4. First, the water goes through a filter, then it goes to a tank. That is basic sentence or statement for a Band 5, Band 6 candidate. So what do you say? Well, we can use this possible answer actually. Initially, the water is passed through a filtration system. After that, or after which, it is transferred to a storage tank. So again, this is the possible answers for a Band 7 or Band 8 answers. And a hint, use trend verbs, comparison structures, proportional language, and use passive voice from module A to E. Answers all slide 36. Right. Okay, let's move on to our practice exercise number 3. So here is our practice activity number 3. What you gotta do is you gotta fix the error sentence. So this is error correction. Find and correct the vocabulary error in each sentence below. Number 1, the amount of students increased significantly. So this is a problem with word choice. Remember, we talk about the word amount and number. Amount is only being used with uncountable noun, whereas number is used with countable noun. So in this case, students are countable noun. So we say the number of students increased significantly. All right. Number 2, sales were rose sharply in the third quarter. So this is the problem with verb form. Remember, there were times where I told you that in academic IELTS writing task 1, we have to be capable of knowing when to use active voice and knowing when to use passive voice. So in this case, we don't say were rose, we say sales rose sharply in the third quarter. So rose, that is the correct word. No passive voice here. Number 3, the chart shows a dramatically increased in cost. So this is the problem with part of speech. Do we need an adverb here? Of course not. So we need an adjective. So the correct answer is the chart shows a dramatic increase in cost. All right, number four. In the north of the town, a new school was built. So this is the problem with past participle or verb 3 column. So that is being spelled out incorrectly. So we say in the north of the town, a new school was built. All right, that's the correct answer. So it's spelled out with the T, not D. 5. Approximately the majority of residents preferred cycling. So this is a redundancy. A redundancy is something that is not needed, but sometimes the IO candidate just randomly include it. So it's not necessary. You can remove it. Why? Because the word majority is more than 50% or 50% already. So we just remove the word approximately. So we just say the majority of the residents preferred cycling. That's correct. Okay, last but not least, number 6. The figure reached at a peak of 75% in 2018. So this is extra word that is not needed. Right. So we say the figure reached a peak of 75% in 2018. So at is not needed. It's not correct to say reach at. All right. So the highlighted in red, check the answer key on the next slide to verify the correction. All right, let's have a quick check on the answer key together. So these are the answer keys to all three activities from fill in the blank, sentence improvement, and error correction. Again, review your practice answer against these keys. Gold highlighted words are the target vocabulary for Band 7 and Band 8. All right, so let's have a look at a Band 8 models paragraph. So this is a model answers 1 for line graph. Let's have a go through it together. So the line graph illustrates the changes in the number of international tourists visiting three European cities, Paris, London, and Rome, between the year of 2000 and 2020. Overall, all three cities experienced a significant upward trend, although the rate of growth varied considerably. Paris attracted the highest number of visitors throughout the period, rising from 15 million in 2020 to approximately 38 million in 2019. London witnessed a similarly dramatic surge, with tourist numbers climbing steadily from 12 million to 32 million over the same time frame. Rome was starting at a comparatively modest 8 million, demonstrated the most rapid proportional growth, nearly tripling to each 23 million. Notably, all three cities experienced a sharp decline in 2020, with figures plummeting by over 60% due to a global travel restriction. However, Paris remains the most visited destination despite this unprecedented downturn. So this is a band aid features. I mean, words or vocabulary that are being used or painted golden. So a wide range of vocabulary, precision collocations, and natural flexibility across certain structures. And if you notice, there's zero repetition of key terms here. Okay, let's move on to a model answers 2, the process diagram. Again, this is the band 8 model answers. So this is the process, paper recycling process, demonstrating sequencing vocabulary and passive voice mastery. So here are the 7 stages or processes of paper recycling, starting from collection, sorting, shredding, filtering, pressing, drying, and distribution. Right, let's have a look at a Band-Aid model response to this process, paper recycling. The diagram illustrates the process by which waste paper is recycled and converted into usable paper products. The process comprises 7 distinct stages, beginning with collection and culminating in the production of finished goods. Initially, used paper is collected from households and commercial premises before being transported to a recycling facility. Subsequently, the paper is sorted according to types and quality, and any contaminants such as plastic or staples are removed. Following this, the sorted paper is shredded into small pieces and submerged in water to create a pulp mixture. The pulp is then filtered to eliminate remaining impurity and bleached to achieve the desired whiteness. At the next stage, the refined pulp is pressed and dried using heated rollers, forming thin sheets of recycled paper. And finally, the finished paper is cut to size, packaged, and distributed to manufacturers for use in producing new paper products. So if you notice this model's process answer response, you will see the structures. The writer used passive voice throughout his or her writing, with, of course, precise sequencing in the right order, starting from collection to distribution. The writer also used sophisticated vocabulary in gold. You can see that. All right. So here the key vocabulary used in this model answers: illustrates, which usually for the band file 6 candidate they would use shows. But we don't want to use show because you would get a lower band score. Comprises, where a band file 6 candidate would use consisted of. Culminating, initially, subsequently, following this, submerged, filtered, eliminate, refined, and forming. All right, so let's move on to our last part. So, vocabulary by function. This is just a quick reference for you so that you can come back and review it yourself. So for the trend vocabulary, you can use the word surge, soar, plummet or plummeted, fluctuate, plateau, peaked, true. And for comparisons, you can use surpassed, outnumbered, roughly, comparable, the former, the later, respectively. Again, use the word respectively carefully, okay? And then we have this proportion or percentage vocabulary. We have the majority, a negligible fraction, accounted for, constituted, approximately. Then we have this processes vocabulary. For example, initially, subsequently, following these, is filtered, is converted into. And then we also have vocabulary to describe maps. For example, demolished, expanded, relocated, adjacent to, in the vicinity of. And last but not least, we have a band strategy. Remember the four criteria: range, precision, flexibility, naturalness. And if you could manage these four criteria and improve them, then you aim for the top band score. All right, so that should be it for this lecture series on Academic IELTS Writing Task 1 Lexical Resource. So again, practice these words daily, use them in the context, and aim for precision, not complexity. And remember, Band 8 writers don't use bigger words, they use the right words. Alright, so that should be it for today. I wish you all the best with your IELTS writing test.